Hello, everybody, and welcome to the United Stand. I'm Mark Goldbridge. I'm joined by Fabrizio Romano. How are you doing, Fabrizio?
Hi, my friend. All good, all good. Thank you. Pleasure to be here, and thank you, as always, for the invitation.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. We're going to fly straight into it. I saw a bit of an update from you about an hour ago saying that Cody Gakpo agent is actively working on deals. Is this a January deal? And do you think Manchester United are at the head of the queue to get this deal done?
Could be a January deal. He's not sure yet, but could be because his agents are now actively working on this possibility. The player is doing fantastic. Also, the World Cup and also what Luis van Gaal told him at the end of the summer market was probably the best solution for the player because he was really one step away from joining Leeds. It was almost done deal, but Luis van Gaal told him, wait a bit, wait for the World Cup and then make your move in January or the following summer. And so now at the moment, the situation is that these agents are working on it. For sure, as always mentioned, the relationship with Manchester United is excellent. The relationship is very good because of the agents who are the same agents of Erik ten Hag. And so very good relationships, conversations are ongoing now between the agents and Manchester United. Is not yet a negotiation between clubs because at the moment there is no bid or no direct contact with PSV Eindhoven. So let's see what Manchester United will decide to do if they want to proceed for a January transfer window for the summer. So they are there. Manchester United are in the race for Cody Gakpo. They are in contact with people close to the player. It's not just Manchester United, because we have to mention also other English clubs exploring this possibility. For example, Real Madrid this year have sent their scouts multiple times to follow the player. They are not planning to do anything for January window, but Cody Gakpo is one of the players they are following for the future. So there are many clubs involved in this race, but Manchester United are there. They have a very good relationship with the agents of the player. And so we have to consider Man United absolutely working on this potential deal.
Okay, and there are obviously January looks like it'll be a key time for Manchester United. We were talking yesterday that Manchester United have basically let it be known that they will be looking to replace Cristiano Ronaldo in January, and Cody Gakpo we've spoken about there, probably one of the high priorities. What sort of price do you think that would take for Manchester United, and do you think they've got that sort of appetite in January to spend 50-40 million pounds?
The real answer is no, because Manchester United's original plan was to invest in a striker in the summer and not in January. So the plan was to do something like not too big in January, like a right back, as we discussed many times, but not something big after spending important money in the summer on many players, like, of course, Lisandro, Casemiro, Anthony. So the idea was to invest in the summer. But I'm told that Erik ten Hag is also discussing with the board about the possibility of signing a new striker in January. And they want to be ready in case there would be the right opportunity. So now it's on Man United to decide if they think Cody Gakpo is worth that money or if they want to wait for summer and go for a different kind of player. It's also about the skills of the player. Cody Gakpo is a fantastic player, but he's not a proper number 9. He's not a traditional number 9. He's more kind of winger. So it's different kind of striker. And so this is why Man United have to decide internally how they want to manage it. It's Erik ten Hag who has to decide together with the board about the price. They always wanted PSV Eindhoven around 50 million euros package. So in the summer, they were prepared to accept around 40 millions plus add-ons. Now I think they want 50 millions guaranteed for Cody Gakpo, also with some add-ons to complete the package. But I think we are always around 50 millions for Cody Gakpo. And honestly, after his World Cup and his excellent performances with PSV Eindhoven, I think he's worth that money.
A few people in the chat are talking about alternatives, and João Felix is a player that I was going to ask you. I was pretty sure last August there was a time where there was a story, I just can't remember where it came out, that Manchester United had inquired with João Felix, but Atletico Madrid had said no. He might be a loan deal in January. Do you think that's something that is likely, a loan deal for everybody? And would that be something that you think Manchester United might look at as a short-term deal to get them to the summer?
So first of all, the story last summer was true. I still remember was the week after that crazy negotiations for Rabiot and Arnautovic. So it was a really difficult moment for Manchester United as they were managing many options before deciding to go for Casemiro and Anthony. So João Felix was one of the options they were considering. They had some contacts with people close to the player, with Atletico Madrid, but the answer was immediately negative on Atletico Madrid's side. They immediately told them the player is not for sale, João Felix stays here, and so it was impossible to proceed. For January, I'm not sure that it's going to be a loan deal, honestly, because there are people into the board of Atletico Madrid insisting to keep the player and to try to change his mind. Why? Because they invested more than 120 millions on Joe Felix in summer 2019. So when you invest 127 million euros on a player and then you have to loan him out, this is not in Atletico Madrid style. So I think their priority will be to try to change his mind and keep the player in January and then see in the summer what happens. But I'm told that at the same point, Jorge Mendes, the agent of the player, is working on some solutions to try to bring a big proposal. So not a loan deal, but something really big to tempt Atletico Madrid and to change the situation. Man United always had an interest in Joe Felix. So let's see if they will return. But also Joe Felix is not kind of number 9 that Manchester United are looking for. So it's different kind of player. So I think now it's important to decide internally what kind of striker Erik ten Hag wants to sign and then to proceed with negotiations. But for Joe Felix, I think loan deal is going to be more than difficult. I think it's more kind of permanent transfer and for more than 120 million. So not an easy one at all.
Yeah, and like you say, he's not really the profile of striker that we're looking for to spend 100 million on. You've mentioned Jonathan David in the past. The question I was going to ask, if United don't get Gakpo and they don't get João Felix on loan and they have to get somebody in January, is there somebody else that you think might be realistic as an option? I know you mentioned Jonathan David. Memphis Depay has been mentioned. Is there anybody else? I mean, Juventus are in a bit of trouble. Could Vlahovic now become an option? Do you think there might be a fire sale at Juventus? Or are there any other strikers that you think United might go for in January as a long-term or short-term option?
Yes, for Vlahovic is everything quiet at the moment, honestly, and also many rumors on Victor Osimhen, but as I always mentioned, he's not leaving Napoli in January, so these two Serie A strikers at the moment, I think, is going to be really quiet. For Jonathan David, they have a feeling at Manchester United, they know that the player is available and they know that the player is available for 45, 50 million. So as of today, while we're speaking, there are no negotiations. So Man United are not actively working to sign Jonathan David, but he's an important striker. He's a talented striker. He can be available on the market for, as I mentioned, 45, 50 millions. And so he could be an option for Man United if they want to go for that kind of player. But at the moment, there are no active negotiations to go for Jonathan David. So I think they have to decide what kind of striker they want, because Jonathan David is completely different compared to Cody Gakpo or to Joao Felix, completely different kind of player, but he's available. And so this is a point in his favor, because in January we know how complicated it is to find strikers and important players. Also, many rumors on Benjamin Sesko, but he already signed a deal with Red Bull Leipzig in the summer, and he's going to be a Red Bull Leipzig player in the summer and still part of the Red Bull group. So many stories, but at the end, in January, it's not easy to find the right player. So it's on Man United and especially on Erik ten Hag to decide what kind of striker they want to sign.
I want to talk to you about right backs and a couple of other players that we've been linked to. But I've seen you commenting a little bit on Manchester United being up for sale last week. What have you heard about that, Fabrizio? Is there anything that you can add to that? We basically know that United are up for sale. There's been talk of Sir Jim Ratcliffe. There's been talk about US investment. There's been a little bit of talk about Dubai and Saudi Arabia, and we had Apple last week. What's your thoughts on this, on sort of where it might end up and how long it might take?
I think it's absolutely normal to have many rumors. It's Manchester United is one of the biggest brands in sports in general, and so it's normal to have many rumors of many groups interested in buying Man United. What I'm told is that there are already some contacts in progress. So it's true that there are some groups that have already approached the Glazers to buy Manchester United. And so there is already something ongoing. But at the moment, I'm not able to mention, okay, this group is going to buy Manchester United. It's too early. And so it's early stages, as we have to wait. Also about the price. The price is an important point because they want more than 5 billion to sell Manchester United. And so this is an important point. They will try to get 6-7 billion. It's not going to be an easy one at all, but the negotiations are there. We know how important it is to sell a big club, a big brand like Manchester United. So be patient, but I think it's already a positive news, because to have this kind of process now, November, December, maybe January, it will take some time, but it means that next year and next summer, everything will change. I see Manchester United board structure also to change, because this is something that we had in the air for a long time. And so there will be changes. It means that the strategy will also change. I think that was absolutely needed for Man United, something that has to change. It has to be different. The approach to the market, the way they plan for the transfer market. And so this is a very positive news to plan for the future of the club and to see Man United back at the top level.
Yeah, thanks for that update, Fabrizio, because that's more or less what some people had feared, well, not feared, but thought that when a week ago Manchester United announced that they were looking for sales, there was this feeling that might not have been putting them up for sale to wait. There may well have been negotiations going on with people already. So, yeah, hopefully, if that is the case, then we'll probably get news sooner than if there's nobody in negotiations, I suppose.
Yes.
We'll see what happens with that. With regards to the right back situation, I don't know whether you saw this morning, there was a story from at Plettigol, it was on for Sky Germany, talking about Frimpong, another Dutch player who's part of the World Cup squad, who Manchester United may be in talks with after the World Cup. We know that Wan-Bissaka may be leaving in January. I don't know whether you've heard whether that'll be a loan or a full-time deal, but surely that means United have to go for a right back as well. Do you think Frimpong, or we've mentioned Dumfries in the past, or do you think they'll try and just get through to the summer with that?
Yes, first of all, for Wan-Bissaka, they are still trying to find a solution. Man United are desperate to find a solution for Wan-Bissaka. It's something that they already wanted to do in August, to bring in Serginho Dest, but then it didn't happen for Wan-Bissaka to join any other English club in the final days of the market. So they are in the process to find a way for Wan-Bissaka. And yes, as we mentioned here many times, they are following Jeremy Frimpong. Man United scouts have been there to follow this boy many times, also in Champions League games with Bayer Leverkusen. I'm told that the real problem is Bayer Leverkusen now, because Bayer Leverkusen don't want to sell the player in January. Their plan is to keep the player at least until the end of the season and maybe sell him at the end of the season for more than 25 millions. So it's on Man United now. If they want to invest that money, 20, 25 millions, this is the price, I'm told, for Jeremy Frimpong in January. It could be a possibility to tempt Bayer Leverkusen. On player side, there is no doubt the player would be super excited to join Manchester United. He dreams of Premier League football, I'm told, so he's absolutely open to the move. But it's on Man United how much they want to invest in that position, where they have Diogo Dalot, who is doing very well, but also they have to negotiate a new deal with him. And this is something that Man United are already planning, because they want to discuss with Diogo Dalot, with his agents, but they have that option, as we know, included in the contract, so they feel protected. And so it's on Man United how much they want to invest on the right back, if they want a short-term solution, maybe for 6 months, and then to sign a competitive right back in the summer. But for Frimpong, it's 20, 25 millions. Otherwise, it's going to be almost impossible to convince Bayer Leverkusen in January.
Yeah, I mean, 20, 25 million doesn't sound too bad for Frimpong, but I think you touched on it there, Fabrizio. The issue is we're all very happy with the low. And if you bring Frimpong in, you've got two very competitive right backs. I mean, the Malacia and Shaw thing works well because Malacia is younger and development, yes. But Frimpong and Dalot, it's one position and two good players, and it's hard to get that balance, isn't it, on bringing the right player in to work with
also because Dalot is out of contract next summer, and so you have to be careful with how you manage the situation with Dalot, because, for example, as we mentioned here a few weeks ago, Barcelona are following the player since a long time. I repeat, I don't see him leaving on a free, because Man United have the option. It would be, I think, kind of stupid to let him go on a free. He's an important player with a big value, and so I don't see Barca signing Dalot on a free. But they are one of many clubs following the player, and it means that for Man United to create too much competition with kind of player like Frimpong could be not the best strategy to have a new deal with Diogo Dalot. So it's about deciding what they want to do. But I'm told that Erik ten Hag is really happy with Dalot. So I would not be surprised if they decide to go with different kind of options, something more kind of short-term option, and then to go for different kind of right back in the summer.
Yeah. One. I think one area many people watching and many United fans would like to see strengthened, but not in January, is probably centre-back and midfield. There's a couple of players to mention there. The first one I'll mention is close to home for you. It's Napoli. It's he's in the World Cup as well, Kim Min-jae. It's a player that we've been linked to quite a lot over the last few months, but one I've sort of ignored because I'm like, why would Napoli sell? He'd probably be very expensive. He's not been there that long. But he does keep being linked to a couple of clubs, but United, I mean, and we've spoken before about how difficult Napoli are to deal with. Is there a buyout clause or a likelihood that could happen next summer?
Yes, there is a buyout clause included in the contract of Kim Min-jae. It's a contract that includes this clause that is around 45 million. It's only valid in the summer, not in January. So the player is 100% staying in January. In the summer, it could change. It depends on this release clause. I'm told that this release clause is for 2 weeks, something like that, in July. So it's not for the whole summer. So if some club want to sign Kim Min-jae, they have to be really fast and to have very clear ideas and to reach an agreement with the player before July. So the process is not going to be easy. One more point. Napoli are prepared to offer Kim a new deal very soon in the next weeks. After the World Cup, they will discuss with his agent to try to change the contract, to change the release clause, and not have any problem with him, as they want him to stay for kind of long-term project with Kim to be one of the leaders of Napoli. So not an easy negotiation at all, not for January. We will see for the summer. Why we have these rumors? Because Manchester United have sent their scouts multiple times here in Italy to follow this player, and also in the Champions League games he was very good. And Man United, as many other scouts say, it's not just Man United but also other English clubs, were really impressed with this player who was doing very well with Fenerbahce, and then moving to Napoli to replace Koulibaly, who was one of the best centre backs in Serie A, was not an easy situation at all, and he's doing fantastic. So this is why Man United are among many clubs following this player, but as of today, there are still no direct negotiations, and the only way is the release clause, because Napoli have no intention to negotiate with any club. They want to keep the player, and so not an easy one.
It's quite, it surprises me, because Napoli, I'm surprised that there was a release clause in the first place, but you know, it's there, and that's probably why there'll be a lot of people looking at him then.
Yes. The point is about how will go the negotiation with Napoli, if the release clause will be there in the summer or not, because Napoli director also a few days ago said we will be really pushing in the next weeks to have a new deal agreed with Kim, and so I think it's not going to be an easy one, not just for Man United but for all the English clubs. And sometimes you can see the strategy, the vision. This summer Napoli signed Kim for 15 millions and then Kvaratskhelia for almost 20 millions, and you can see how much is the value now. It's crazy.
We've also been linked with Moises Caicedo of Brighton this morning. Again, I think this was coming from Sky Germany, which I don't really understand. Well, it can come from anywhere, can't it? But again, I think Manchester United, Casemiro has been brilliant in this World Cup, and actually having a player like that is what United fans have wanted for a long time. But we don't have a backup to Casemiro, and Casemiro is not that young. So Caicedo would be a very interesting player. Can you see him being a target for Manchester United in the summer? Because he looks like a much better player than Brighton, with all due respect. I think he will be playing at a higher level at some point very soon.
He's always been in Manchester United radar. Many of you of Manchester United fans remember that they had the chance to sign him for £5 million, and they decided not to proceed in that moment. Also, last summer, end of August, I mentioned that week after the Rabiot negotiation collapsed, he was one of the players that Manchester United discussed internally. They had some contacts with intermediaries close to the player, but then at the end, they decided to go for Casemiro, for a different kind of player. But Caicedo has always been a player in the list. Has always been a player appreciated by Man United. Let me say that it's not just Man United, because, for example, also Liverpool have sent their scouts multiple times to follow this player. So it's Man United, it's Liverpool, but it's Brighton. It's Brighton because they don't want to sell the player in the January transfer window. It's something for the summer. In the summer, when someone approached Brighton to offer 50-55 millions, they said no chance to sell the player for that money. They wanted more than this. So I think it's going to be a really expensive one and not an easy one at all. But for sure, Caicedo is a player that Manchester United really appreciate. He's always been in the list, and the player would dream of that kind of move. Man United, Liverpool, he dreams of this kind of clubs. So I'm sure that one day it will happen, because I agree with you. He's a fantastic player, but as of now, still nothing going.
Maybe if we get Gakpo in January and then we get new owners in April, we can sign Caicedo, Kim Min-jae, Osman, and and Frimpong, and then have a go next season. One player I wanted to ask about before you go was Donny van de Beek. We've obviously spoken about him for a couple of years now, and he didn't really play that. He got a few starts before the World Cup break. He didn't play that well. Do you think he will now stay until the summer? Or, he's not gone to the World Cup, so he might have had that chat with Ten Hag by now. Do you think Donny will settle and stay for the summer because that suits him and suits Manchester United? Or do you think that there still could be a little bit of a move around him in January?
No, what I'm sure is that at the moment there are no negotiations with any club. His agents are not working now to find a solution for Donny. So at the moment, he's not planning to leave Manchester United. But I think we have to keep an eye on Donny van de Beek till the end of the market, because it depends also on Man United. If in January he's not going to play, and maybe after a conversation with Ten Hag, the situation could change. But at the moment, the situation is still quiet, with the player determined to do his best for Manchester United, to fight for his Manchester United place. So no active work to find a solution for Donny. But this is one that we have to watch also in January, because it could change. It could change because, for example, last summer, in the final week of the transfer window, 2 English clubs approached Man United and Donny van de Beek agents to find a solution. But Donny decided to stay. Erik ten Hag decided to keep the player. So there was not even a negotiation. But now it's going to be important to see how much Donny will play, because he needs to play. He has to play. And also he needs to play at Man United level. This is also an important point. So we will see. But at the moment, no negotiations to find a way for Donny van de Beek.
And one final thing, just from the chat. I know he was linked to United a year ago. I think Ranić mentioned him. Obviously, he's gone to Benfica, doing great. Enzo Fernandez, he will cost a lot of money, won't he? I think Enzo Fernandez is going to end up at PSG or Real Madrid next. I think Manchester United might have missed the boat with him by letting him go to Benfica.
Yes, that was a big opportunity. There was a big opportunity. Man United decided not to proceed. It was Enzo Fernandez and Julian Alvarez. They were 2 players that Man United had the chance to sign, and they decided to wait and not to proceed on them. And no, at the moment, there are no negotiations between United and Enzo Fernandez, and there are many top clubs following it. So I'm sure that will be a crazy battle, and I'm not sure that it's going to be next summer, because it depends on the price. Benfica will ask for crazy money. They hope to keep the player for 1 more season, so not an easy one. But if he will continue like this, I think it will be more than 85 million for Enzo Fernandez.
Fabrizio, we got through loads there. Thank you very much, as ever. Brilliant. And
thank you.
I know you've got to get off to go on Sky or something like that, haven't you?
Yes,
so I'll let you shoot off. But as always, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you. And see you soon here in United Stand. Thank you. Ciao.
Thank you. Thanks, Fabrizio. Great update there from Fabrizio there. I don't know what's going on with my background, but we'll stick with it. So let me just, some of you will have joined in a little bit late, so I just wanted to summarize what we were discussing there. We got through loads. I mean, normally at the end of the 20 minutes, I'm like, oh, I didn't ask about this, I didn't ask about that, but we did get through loads and loads of stuff. We even spoke about the sale of Manchester United, and I did want to ask Fabrizio about that, because he's not a Manchester United correspondent, but he is, finger on the pulse, and he will have heard things, and I'd seen him tweeting about it last week. So we'll give you what Fabrizio said about the United sale in a minute. But I suppose starting from the top, in relation to the striker situation, Gakpo actively working his agent on deals, and January looks likely. The only thing I would say about that is, I mean, look, Fabrizio's not negotiating the deal, is he? But as much as I think Gakpo's the most logical option because Erik ten Hag wanted him in the summer, it's always worth mentioning 2 things. One, the price tag is probably going to be between 40 and 50 million. And as Fabrizio said, United didn't want to be spending in January. And then point 2, he's not an out-and-out striker. I mean, I think the development there is for him to play centrally, but he's not an out-and-out striker. So, and there's probably going to be a bit of competition as well. So will we go? Will it happen? I think it's the most logical deal. We have to do something. Then asked about João Felix as a loan deal. Fabrizio said that's going to be very, very difficult to do a loan deal. Atletico Madrid paid over £100 million for him. Why would they want to loan him out to somebody else when he's a £100 million asset? They're going to want to sell him. Who's going to want to do that in January? So João Felix sounds difficult. Gakpo, I still think is very, very possible. But if that didn't happen and João Felix didn't happen, and we've got to get somebody in January, who are we going to get? I mentioned Memphis Depay. That wouldn't surprise me, but I think that's a cheap deal, and I don't think it's the right deal to do. Fabrizio said Osimhen is not going to happen in January. You've then got people like Jonathan David, which Man United are not even negotiating for. And he did mention Sesko, and I think Sesko's always a player to bring back in, even though it's unlikely Benjamin Sesko, because he's already agreed to go from RB Salzburg to RB Leipzig. There has always been that rumour that he might never kick a ball for Leipzig, and Leipzig might just cash in and sell him for 40 or 50 million. So it's going to be very intriguing. I'd still put Gakpo as the number 1 option, but I'd also say that it's we've got to do something, and in January it's not always logical to just go, that's going to... I think Gakpo's the most logical one. And although I said it jokingly, we spoke about Kim Min-jae, we spoke about Osimhen, we spoke about Gakpo, we spoke about Frimpong, we spoke about Casido. And I said, well, let's get Gakpo in January, get a new owner in April, and then the new owner can buy us Casido, Kim Min-jae, Frimpong, and Osimhen. I'll be pretty happy with those 5 players over the next 8 months. Casido, Gakpo, Osimhen, Kim Min-jae, and Frimpong. I mean, to be honest with you, if I could have those 5 players by the start of next season, I'll take that. I'll take that. And why couldn't we? That's the whole point of getting a new owner, isn't it? If we could have those 5 players before next January, what you're talking, Gakpo 40 million, Casido, 50 million. Kim Min-jae, I'm going to talk about 45 million. Frimpong, 25 million. And then, you probably get all those for around 250. So yeah, I mean, why not? Why not? Is that not what a new owner is meant to be? So that was the situation with the strikers. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Right back, the fact that Frimpong's available for 25 million is interesting. He's a good signing at 25 million. The issue is he too good to come in at right back when you've already got Delo? Are they basically two first choice right backs? And how would that work? How would that dynamic work, especially when you're negotiating a new contract with Delo? I don't know. I feel that we need a Malacia at right back. We need somebody who's a bit younger, more developmental. I mean, I've said Max Aarons in the past. People have said Ethan Laird. It is interesting. We can get a good right back, but it's what that right back's going to do to Delo and how much competition you want to have there. I mean, do you want two really good right backs competing at right back? I don't know. We also spoke about Kim Min-jae. Now, this was really interesting, and I think I'd missed it, and I think many of you probably already knew about it. I asked Fabrizio about Kim Min-jae, Napoli centre-back, currently at the World Cup with South Korea. He's done fantastically well at Napoli. He's not been there that long after signing from Fenerbahce. And I basically said to Fabrizio, because Fabrizio is based in Italy, and knows a lot about Napoli, why are we being linked to Kim Min-jae? Because Napoli have only just bought him. They're notoriously hard to deal with. We wanted Koulibaly for years. We couldn't get anywhere near Koulibaly because they wanted silly money. And then Fabrizio said, well, the simple reason you're being linked to him is because he's got a release clause for 2 weeks in July for 45 million quid. Someone's got to try and do that. That's a steal. That is an absolute steal. Now, of course, Napoli are trying to negotiate a new contract with Kim Min-jae now, so that release clause is taken out. Now, if he's very happy at Napoli, he may well sign that new clause, and you can forget anybody getting Kim Min-jae for 45 million. It'll be another 90 million deal for the next 3 years or whatever. But if that stays in place, that release clause for 2 weeks in July, 45 million quid, it is a steal. Now, look, some of you might not have seen much of him. Some of you might have seen a lot about him, but he is a good centre-back, very, very good centre-back. And 45 million is more than a fair price. So let's see what happens. If he signs a new contract before the summer, then that release clause is going to disappear. But if that release clause stays, and it's only for 2 weeks in July, I think United have got to get all over it. I really, really do. But we'll see what happens with that. Also, I asked Fabrizio about the sale of Manchester United and what his thoughts were on that. And basically, he said that it's good news for Manchester United. It's good news for Manchester United fans. From what he's hearing, the Glazers are already in negotiations with people to sell Manchester United. But who those parties are at the moment is, I don't know whether he doesn't want to say or he doesn't know, but it does fit in with the rumours, really, that as much as Manchester United officially announced on last Tuesday, a week ago, that they're up for sale, I think negotiations have been going on before that. And that fits in with the story, doesn't it? That fits in with the story that that Manchester United are in negotiations, and if they are in negotiations, you wonder who they're in negotiations with. Are they or have they already been in negotiations with Sir Jim Ratcliffe? Are they in negotiations with Dubai? Are they in negotiations with a US group? There's good and bad to that, because if they're in negotiations with the wrong people, then we're going to have the wrong people in charge of us. But the good side is, if the negotiations have been going on before last week, then we'll be closer to a sale than we think, which is important. So we'll have to see what happens with that. What else did I want to talk about? Casido. Look, at the end of the day, Casido is not a January signing. It's going to be for the summer. We spoke about Juventus. I mean, big trouble around Juventus at the moment, but nothing coming out of there about a fire sale. I mean, Juventus could be in big trouble. They could be facing relegation at the worst. I don't know whether you've seen what's happened with Juventus, but most of their board have resigned. They're about £200 million losses for 1 year. There's talks of false accounting. There's talks of all sorts of bad stuff around Juventus again, and it's not the first time in the last 20 years that Juventus have been in this sort of trouble. So We'll have to keep an eye on the Juventus situation, but they could be in all sorts of trouble. And if they are, there may be opportunities for players to leave, and maybe Vlahovic, Chiesa. I don't think we go back for Pogba, but no, we'll have to keep an eye on what happens with Juventus, because if they get relegated, there's going to be a lot of players leaving there. Even if they don't get relegated, there might be a lot of players leaving there to make up for the money. But it's not looking good for Juventus. And then on exits in January, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, as we know, is up for grabs. Could be a loan, could be a sale. And I did mention Donny van der Beek. I did mention Donny just to see what might be happening with him. I think the logical conclusion for Donny van der Beek is that he will stay until the summer. I know he didn't play particularly well before the World Cup break, but there was signs that he was getting better with each game. There's still a hell of a lot of improvement there. But we have got a lot of games to play between now and the end of the season, and losing Donny van der Beek, you don't really have anyone to replace him. So I think Donny might stay, but as Fabrizio said, it's one to monitor throughout the transfer window, because it might be that Donny van der Beek asks to go, and there might be some interest in Donny van der Beek, and it might be the time to let him go. But as of now, no real update on Donny, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. We spoke about the right back, spoken about the striker situation. It's very clear that Manchester United are going to be active in this January transfer window, as we know. I just wanted to bring something else in that I read before I came live about Erik ten Hag not being happy with Jadon Sancho. Now, I forget where the source was, and it might be about as good as my source cupboard, but I don't think it's a headline story. Erik ten Hag is not happy with Jadon Sancho. Well, you're not happy with Jadon Sancho. I don't think Jadon Sancho is happy with himself. Like, he's not in good form. There's different levels of unhappiness. I doubt Ten Hag is jumping for joy with Jadon Sancho's form this season. But on the other hand, I don't think he's there saying, get out of my club. I think that there's an acknowledgement from Ten Hag, the fans, and most importantly, Jadon himself, that he's not hitting the heights that he's meant to be hitting. He's meant to be a star player for Manchester United. He's meant to be a consistent player that's performing. And I think at times this season there's been glimpses of good form, but it has fell off a bit. I think sometimes we're always eager to find a story, and I don't think there is a story about Sancho being in major trouble. The flip side of having good owners at the club is that if we hit this summer and there's no improvement, Ten Hag might be able to say to them, I want to sell Sancho, and they'll just go, yeah, we'll take the hit, let's get rid of him. But we're not there yet. I think that obviously Sancho needs to do a lot more. He will know that. Ten Hag knows that. The fans know that. I don't think there's a drama there. He's as we know, he's been out training in the Netherlands. I mean, why would he be training in the Netherlands if there wasn't some sort of link up with Ten Hag for go and do this? So I think he's putting the work in, and I still believe that. I hate the cliche, but he could be like a new signing in January. I don't think we've really had much out of Sancho so far in his career. There's been glimpses, but there's not been consistency. But if he can, he's not having a World Cup, get the fitness up, get the mindset right, come back over Christmas, could be like a new signing in a position where we do need a bit of, before the World Cup, we played Fulham, we had no Sancho, we had no Anthony, and we were a bit short off the flanks. So look, I still think there's plenty of time for Sancho to turn it round. Is there a chance he could be gone in a year or two? Of course there is, but I think there's a chance that anybody could be gone in a year or two. But look, Erik ten Hag didn't buy Jadon Sancho, so he doesn't have to be loyal. But I think Erik ten Hag will appreciate a player like him and will do everything he can to get the most out of him, because at his best, Jadon Sancho is a very valuable player who can work in a Ten Hag system. So I'm not worried about that story, and I don't necessarily think it amounts to too much. Where I am focused at the moment is about who's going to buy Manchester United next and what striker we're going to buy in January, because we have to buy somebody. And for me, it still remains Cody Gakpo. Edwin says Sancho's on 350k a week. I don't know whether that's true or not. I choose not to acknowledge that, because if we're paying Jadon Sancho 350k a week, I would ask why. I don't get it. And again, this is why we need new owners. Because if you bring a Sir Jim Radcliffe in, or you bring US investors in, or you bring Dubai in, I don't think they're going to run it the way the Glazers are. Fabrizio said that, you get new owners, but I think you'll get a new board as well. One of the great things that Fabrizio said is about the new ownership. He says you'll get a new board, and that means a new strategy. What he meant there is that United's transfer strategy is a gimmick. in the world of football and has been for about 10 years. The amount of people I've spoken to in the industry, whether it's agents or journalists, United are perceived as a joke behind the scenes, because you don't see behind the scenes. You don't see United contacting Sporting to try and negotiate for Bruno a couple of years ago. You don't see our negotiations with Dortmund. You just see what the press report. Our actual negotiations are deemed a laugh. Like, we're not seen as professional. And I think that's what Fabrizio is talking about. When we get new owners in, there'll be a lot of change, which means United can then change their strategy. We need professionalism. And look, if we are giving Jadon Sancho 350k a week, why? He came from Dortmund with no competition. Why does he get 350k a week? He's played in the Bundesliga, didn't win the Bundesliga, didn't win the Champions League, wasn't an England regular. Why would you give him 350k a week? Shouldn't have been on anything more than 250. Why is he getting 350k a week? And that's not his fault. Well done to him. Well done to his agent. What do you want him to do? Turn it down or not ask for it? United should never be paying that. And that's another reason why we need new owners, because no club should be paying Jadon Sancho 350 quid a week to come from Dortmund. There's just no logic to it. What's he done in his career to justify 350k a week? But you could say that about a few United players. I mean, God knows what we're going to give Rashford on his new contract. If I was going to be the new owner of Man United, I'd be saying don't give any contracts out without our say so. But whether they can do that or not, I don't know. But anyway, look, thanks everyone for watching. We are live at 3 o'clock on That's Football for the Netherlands against Qatar. There'll be goals in that. Cody Gakpo, and also Ecuador against who are they playing? Senegal. To see who will play England in the next round. So I am being cocky. It will be England because we will top the group. So check it out. 3 o'clock. We're in the studio at the United Stand HQ for the watch along. 3 o'clock on That's Football. And I'm live at 7 o'clock for England-Wales, where we're going to beat the Welsh. And then we've got a show at 9 o'clock on here. So thanks everyone for watching. Take care. Make sure you subscribe. And I'll speak to you in a bit.